Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Dover Board of Selectmen February 9th, 2023 meeting. Following guidance issued by Governor Baker in 2020 regarding open meeting law, this public meeting is being held remotely, and individuals wishing to participate can do so utilizing Zoom. The link to the Zoom meeting is in the agenda, which can be found on the town website. This evening is a single subject Board of Selectmen meeting, and it's basically a community center building project update. And I'm going to do something a little bit different. Bob, first I'm going to turn it over to you as the liaison to update us all on the process, and then turn it over to Colliers to just walk through the presentation that they sent out earlier this week. And then I will open it up for public comment if people have things to say. So Bob, I will turn it over to you.
Okay, thank you very much. John, are you going to do the presentation?
Oh, you know what? I forgot to take roll call.
Oh yeah, roll call.
Okay,
Sorry.
I got ahead of myself. So I, Robin Hunter, present.
Bob Springett, present.
John Jeffries, present.
All right, now I can turn it over to you. Now that you have identified yourself and have confirmed that you are present.
Oh, thank you very much, Madam Chair. The long and short of it is that the team at Collins and ROPM and Building Committee have spent a fair amount of time going through an analysis of the work that we asked them to do back in November to re-prepare building documents. And so tonight's presentation will be about what they found as they dug in and through all of those issues that had been raised back in November, the conclusions that they had reached, and the rationale for the conclusions that they had reached and where they are at the present moment. And they're looking for the board to sort of listen very carefully and listen to the rationale. And at the end, what they want to do is they want to come out of this meeting with consensus that the building documents and what they've presented is the way to go. And I think from a project point of view, they received the qualification documents from bidders. They're probably going through that process to make sure we have pre-qualified bidders. Assuming that goes right, the meeting tonight goes as I hope it will go. The documents will go out to bid in early March, and I think the return date
says in the last page, off to bid March 1st, 2023.
Yeah, but that was Janice. She didn't have that in the prior draft. The prior draft didn't have that stuff on the back like that. They augmented it.
So I read it through to the last page.
Well, you didn't, because they didn't send you all the pages.
Well, the last page I got.
All right. So hopefully that's a fair assessment of what's been going on. A lot of work's been going on in the background by the architects to sort of pull this together. And we hope you find this interesting and help us move this along. John, is it you or Janice?
Well, if I may, I'd like to kick us off. Good evening, everyone. My name is John Bates. We have met before. I'm with Colliers project leaders, the OPM on the project. I am joined this evening by Janice Centrella from Fennick McCready Architects. I also believe that Deborah Fennick is with us, as well as John Richardson from Fennick McCready. So if I could just start with a quick recap of where we were and where we're going. So in light of last year's bid overage, Colliers helped the town hire a Boston architectural firm, Barkman Henry Archetype, to do a peer review of the community center bid documents. This was done with the goal of developing what we call value engineering or cost savings recommendations. And this peer review's focus was to find savings in areas that would not impact the project's goals. And by that, I mean, we're not looking to simply chop out program or square footage from this building, which would then compromise or change the building's function. Instead, what we're looking to do is identify areas, say in the architecture, the materials, perhaps the building systems, that by changing wouldn't alter the building's function, but could result in some savings. And another part of this evaluation criteria is tied to the fact that we are targeting a June special town meeting. And that means that we need to identify items that can be designed and incorporated into the bid documents so that they're ready to take out to the market and have bids in hand by early June. Just give a quick example, say changing the exterior cladding system of the building, or maybe changing the roof structure of the building. These would not be examples of changes that we could pull off and have in the bid documents by our March 1 release date that we just mentioned. So the peer review did result in a list of value engineer recommendations, some rough estimates of what each might save us. And Fedek Petretti's charge over these last many weeks has been to do a deeper analysis to see out of those items in the peer review, what can be addressed in time for that June town meeting and what are the realistic net benefits and what are the real savings. So with that, I would like to turn this over to Janice, who has a PowerPoint, a brief PowerPoint that she's going to go through, and it really goes more in depth on that analysis that I just mentioned. Confirming that I do see the PowerPoint. Janice, are you talking?
She's on mute.
No, sorry.
she is.
I was trying to figure out where the mute thing was. Sorry about that. And I think, John, you wanted to mention something on the first slide on the schedule, or you want me just to go?
Well, we can touch on the schedule. As we had mentioned, we are targeting bid documents to be ready by the 1st of March. And then, of course, the real, well, a few milestones here that are significant, obviously, but on 4/19, general bids will be due. And those are, in our opinion, at this point, the real numbers that we have estimates, but those will be the real numbers that'll tell us what we're looking at and what we're taking to the town meeting in June. But that's all I'd really like to say, Janice, unless you have more that you'd like to go into on the schedule.
No, I think this is our schedule overview. So I just wanted to say that our target zone shown in that green circle on the graphic, that's where we are now. And just to highlight some of the milestones, again, 2/16 is when we're issuing bid documents to the hosting site for them to do their review and get it prepped to go out on the street on March 1st. 4/19 is when we're targeting to get GC bids back. 4/27 would be the Board of Selectmen approval of the GC. June 3rd is that special town meeting we brought up as a target a few times. And 6/15 is when we're hoping the contract will be executed, roughly anticipating about a 14-month construction schedule that would put closeout somewhere in mid-August 2024. So that's just our overview there. VE guidelines. So as a team, the following guidelines for any VE considerations were determined per that November 21st meeting. We felt VE should be evaluated on include only items that could be amended in bid documents for June 3rd, 2023 special town meeting. Adhere to design voted on the June 12th, 2021 special town meeting with little to no reduction to building size. Programmatic use and functionality preserved, consistent with project goals, positive impact to the project. So essentially we're not deviating or not to deviate with the VE from what was decided as important to the town in that June 2021 meeting. So potential VE items. So after study of the 17 VE items that were identified in November, we grouped them into two categories for consideration: high value and low value items. So on the left, we have high value items. We felt we can make these changes and found them to have no significant impact, or rather negative impact, in respect to our VE guidelines. Listed here is how we've incorporated those into the bid documents to date. So, most of them were removing scope or the majority of scope. Two of them, which we'll talk about later, have become add alternates. But most all of these we can take. And again, those VE items and changes are currently underway in the bid documents. On the right are low value items. So items that do have significant impact in respect to our VE guidelines we went through. These are also large effort items with minimal payback. What we found with studying these items in depth is that we can categorize them in 3 additional groups to better understand why they are low value items, with some overlap that you can see illustrated there. The top 2 items, defer maintenance. That's essentially items that will ultimately require replacement, however, at a higher cost if they are done later. So that would be existing roofing on the 1910 building and existing 1910 second story window replacement. That would be deferring it to the future, and it'll just cost more in the future. Require additional demolition, separate construction contract, construction in occupancy. The next 4 items had functionality and flexibility impact, negative impact. So essentially these have negative impact on the program, the project's use and project mission. The last 3 items were found with study to have little to no cost savings. So that's kind of a no-brainer. These have minimal savings, so not really worth the risk that would be incurring these cuts. So again, folding partition, moving studio sprung floor, electrical modifications, generator size, those we saw as functional flexibility impacts, negative impacts. And then the last 3, electrical modifications, generator size, metal stud to wood stud framing, we saw little to no cost savings for those. The next 2 slides, we'd like to demonstrate 2 examples of investigations and additional study we did. So here we have metal stud to wood stud framing, which we looked into. This one we found to have low value because it has little to no cost savings. So after study, we confirmed with our structural engineer that if this was even possible. What we found was it's not possible, particularly at the exterior walls, because we have, or what we would have would be a hybrid system. We have steel supported concrete for most of our structural system, and now we would be introducing wood framing. That would require a slip track construction, which would be cost prohibitive to fabricate, a comparable condition for wood stud framing. So we kind of show that condition on the right here. It would be basically fabricating that metal piece that you see for the wall to slip into. The second thing we did was investigate if we could even implement this change for partitions in the 1910 building only. So that's that building that you see kind of highlighted on the left there in blue. Again, we found this not to be ideal for the same reasons, as we would still have a hybrid structural system. Steel supported wood joists is what we have in the 1910 building. So it's still a hybrid structural system. We would need to implement atypical details such as gapping the wall, or again, we would need to do a custom slip track to integrate the wood as to not create bearing walls. So it's really a structural reason. It just doesn't make sense to do some of this. We also reached out to framing contractors and our estimator, and what we found was not all framers do metal and wood framing, and some only do one or the other. So with wood becoming less of a standard for framing, we could have multiple framing crews on site, and we would limit our bidding pool. So after talking to the estimator, he really believes that the bidding and framing complications would eliminate any minimal savings we might see with this change. So again, we're seeing that as a low value item with little to no cost savings. Next is window frame modifications. So this one we see as a high value. After study, even though there's limitations to operability and a difference with the mullion thickness that we would need to achieve with this, we studied it in depth, and we feel that there's little impact to the building design. It also offers better energy efficiency. We found that fiberglass is twice as thermally resistive than aluminum systems. So, although aluminum has been the commercial standard for 30 years, it's durable, it's known for commercial use. We didn't really see any downside with making this change. It's an emerging product for commercial use. We're seeing it more and more. And again, with better energy efficiency, we didn't really see a drawback. So this change is actually underway. We've been going through, like you can see on the left here, and changing our details to take this change. It also eliminates a file subbidder, which has some inherent cost savings in it. We can't really quantify that, but it would be above our $14,000 that we kind of targeted with our estimator for savings on this one. So that's good to keep in mind. So confirmations, somewhat conclusions. On the left is just a recap of our low value items again. Here we have the direction that we're currently in to kind of stay on target, to stay on schedule, which is basically issuing our bid documents next week. So we've got a week here. So what we're proceeding with. So again, we have our deferred maintenance items, existing roofing on the 1910 building and the existing 1910 second story windows. For those, we're proceeding with keeping them as new. So we're proceeding with replacement for those and not deferring it to the future. Folding partition, movement studio, sprung floor. Those we are also proceeding with keeping those in the project, keeping the functionality and the flexibility that they provide the program and the project in general. Electric modifications, generator size, metal stud to wood stud framing, which was one of the value items we went over. Those were the ones that we saw little to no cost savings with those. So we are not proceeding with those. The last item here is actually an owner preference item. We could take this cut. So one of the peer review items was that we had voice evacuation on our fire alarm. It is not required by code for our occupancies or building size. So we could take that cut if we wanted to. It's kind of a preference item. So we kind of offer that up to everyone to let us know whether we should go ahead and proceed with taking that cut. So that's the list there of where we are with the drawings. Our previous list of the high value items, like we said, we're doing all those already. So those are all underway and should be in the bid documents that are going out on 2/16. Add alternates, Parks and Recreation will be going for a warrant article. And so the request is to be able to list both those costs independently in the warrant article by integrating the exterior scope of work as 2 add alts in the bid documentation. So that's essentially separating the scope out in a manner that the contractors can apply separate prices to them. So you can see what that scope of work actually costs. So we'll have adult number 1 for the exterior recreation court, and we'll have adult number 2 for the swing area. And that's to be voted on at the special town meeting, June 3rd, in addition to the main warrant article to proceed with the full project.
So by swing area, do you mean playground swings?
It's a single swing unit with about 3 swings on it. It's basically, yeah, to replace what they have now with a new swing. It's something they like. Parents like to wait, you know, for rides or whatnot with younger children at those swings now. So,
But part of that swing area
Denise,
scope would include some ground preparation, correct?
Sorry?
I beg your pardon, John?
Well, I just
Denise,
wanted to know.
which John are you talking to, Robert?
John Bates. John, you were mumbling there.
I'm sorry. I just wanted to clarify that part of that swing area scope that's mentioned as part of that alt 2 does involve a little bit of ground work. So it's not just installing swing sets, correct? And Fennick McReady can elaborate, but there is
yes,
some ground preparation and it's like a rubber mat flooring, right? That
yes,
gets
for
installed.
safety at the swings, but it's not additional equipment. It's not a full play area.
I kept thinking of swing dancing, so it took me a while to figure out what the swing area was.
So Janice, you highlighted $15,000 for the voice evacuation as a potential. but there's no other cost associated with the other high value items. Can you give us an estimate? Because I know when we had this meeting a month or so ago, we totaled about 1,400,000 and of savings. What do you think that number would be?
Including this owner preference item, it's about 330,000.
I mean, all the big items were excluded because
Timing.
the commitment to the June 3rd town meeting. If you
Correct.
recall, John, $500,000
Yep.
was associated
Yeah.
with changing the exterior of the building.
So I think they're asking if we agree that what they propose is the way they should go.
Well, to be honest, I'm extremely underwhelmed. But at this point, I have fatigue over this project. And as a Board of Selectmen member, I committed to go to town meeting. And if this is all that's available to take to town meeting, I see no other choice than to move forward with what has been presented.
John?
I agree. There's no plan B. This is what we're being given to match the timeline, to perform along the timeline that has been created and laid out for us by our project manager. That there seems to be really nothing to debate or nothing to question. Am I missing something?
No, I mean, this is it.
Bob,
I
you agree with that?
don't see that we have any other choice. I mean, there's been a commitment to take this back June 3rd. So let the town decide. If the town decides they don't want to move forward, then, you know, we will have to think about what the option is then.
So I was sort of taken with the amount of work that's been done to try to get to this point. The architects, the OPMs, I mean, you know, given the timeline, given the different things, I mean, each of these things were looked at pretty carefully, and I would say pretty exhaustively. And I think the general consensus among the team was to keep to the June 3rd date. That certainly squeezed what we could do. A couple of good things came out of it. I mean, I think the window modifications are a pretty positive thing. You know, and $330,000, if you don't, you know, I'd still take it if you toss it my way. I don't see it as chump change. And I think what you wind up with is a fully vetted project. We've looked at it 3 different ways. People have done a lot of hard work to make sure that and think very carefully about what should or shouldn't be in there. The general guideline was the first or second slide where we did the criteria that we used. I thought that was a sensible set of criteria. It was consistent with everything I've heard about the project. I prefer to look at this as glass a little bit more than half full. But I do really want, and I want to thank the people who did all the work to get to this point. I certainly support moving forward with these recommendations. And John, what do we get for this? So Janice, what do we get if we do this? What does it look like?
Oh,
Not sure I understand the
please switch
question.
it. Hold on. Yeah. I don't know what happened.
Oh no, it's
Is it showing it?
yeah,
It
you got it
is.
now.
Okay.
So is there anything you want to point out? The windows are different or anything like that?
Yeah, so these are the new windows. So they do have, a slightly thicker profile to our mullions and whatnot, but we think, the energy savings alone is worth us doing that. We've gone all casement for the operation, which we think will work. And so that's all working for us.
So do we,
Were
I
the
don't know if we need a
interior
vote.
windows changed as well or no?
which
No,
one?
No,
No,
just the
just the-
exterior one.
yeah, just the exterior ones. We have some rather large sections, as you can see, going in
Right.
here.
Right.
Those need to stay storefront for support.
John, you okay?
I'm fine. I agree. I don't disagree with anything you said, Bob. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of, clearly a lot of thought has gone into it. We just seem to be where I'm appreciative of all the work that has gone into, as you said, to get us to this point. I also agree with Robin that it's 2%. It's not, it's about 2% of where we are in the budget for the most recent budget that was proposed for this. So yeah, it's a lot of work. There's not a lot of things that you can do. Your body that you can address is very limited.
Yes. Yeah,
You
no,
know,
I
So-
mean,
the town of Dover needs to decide if they want to.
exactly right.
Right.
Yep.
It's not for us to decide.
So I don't know if we need a motion, Robin. Do we need,
I think we do, right, Carl?
Yes, Madam Chair, you should give the project team the authority to move ahead with these bids as they presented.
Okay, so then I will make a motion to give the project team authorization to move forward with the bids as presented in the report to the Board of Selectmen this evening on February 9th.
Second.
All in favor? Aye, Robin Hunter.
Hi, Bob Springett.
Hi, John Jeffries.
I am happy to open it up for public comment. I see the chair of the building committee on Zoom. If you'd like to say a few words, Ford.
We should take the presentation down, I think, so we can see. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Robin, and thank you to the board for moving this project along so the citizens can have a choice. FMA and Colliers have done a terrific job taking the peer review that you got. Given that the June 3rd town meeting, they did it, to me, an outstanding job. Costs are all, you wait for the bidding. Once the bidding comes in, those are the real costs of the project. And that will tell the town exactly what this project costs today. And we'll see what that comes out at, but I really am appreciative of, I always am, of FMA and Colliers. And I appreciate your vote. And I think the citizens will appreciate your vote to move forward to the town.
Thank you, Ford. And now the hard work begins, I guess. Oh, the harder work. So thank you all. Hopefully we get to a ribbon cutting in August 2024. And have our fingers crossed for the bids. I'm sure you'll be working, with the building committee closely and keeping us abreast. So thank you all.
Robin, are there any questions or comments in the chat?
No, John. It's blank.
Yeah, I didn't see anything.
All right.
Well, thank you all.
Yep. So I'm gonna then make a motion to adjourn this meeting.
Second.
All in favor? Aye, Robin Hunter.
Hi, Bob Springett.
John Jeffries.
Thanks,
Thank you
everybody,
all.
for
Have
all
a
the
good
work
night.
and for coming in and participating.